Yes. Back again. Coffee with JN is back again with a little JN swing. Coffee break with JN and you. Going off. Not too hard. I can't ever. Not too hard. Pause. Not too soft. Well, hello. And welcome back, you guys, to your fortnightly favorite group session. The group therapy is free. FREE, free 99. Just for you walking back to Coffee Break with Jay. All of a sudden, I have the hiccups. I've been fine this whole time. Now, all of a sudden, I have an ailment. Yes, 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 y'all. That was one of my favorite things of all time. The "What's Up" commercials that was cinema. Let's do some hellos because, as you know, on Coffee Break with JN, we got a whole lot of superstars up in this chat. But the room's kind of light. I understand sometimes I think you guys forget that coffee breaks happening. Because at one point in my tenure here, I was doing these every week. I was doing these every week. Chris, you're already the MVP of this one. This is my favorite. You see Batman in the Bat Jet. Hello. Yo, where Duke at? Duke! You see Robin on the ground like, what's that? And the Aquaman's like, what is that? What is that, Ross? Michael, what is that? Phil O'Donnell, what is it? I'm gonna lose my voice doing that. What is that? I gotta add that to the JNN Jamar Nicholas Network lexicon. What? Paul Pate, what up, Paul Pate? Rob, he's like, he's like, yo, okay, yo. that's that's early internet. That's like E-bombs world internet. That's like before the internet was corrupted, before our saving grace of the internet, Al Gore, before he invented the internet. And there was just like keyboard cat and just like Sean Baby uh, uh, articles, and like the place was fun. Oh, that's Ally McBeal internet. This is going back. Oh, you got to follow that up with Bubba Ray and Devon, arguably the greatest tag team in pro wrestling history. People don't want to believe that. People say it's the Road Warriors. I kind of think it's the Road Warriors. But the Dudley Boys are very, very close. I like to make wrestling nerds upset when I talk about that. Paul Pate Frog in a blender. Yeah, I remember that. That was Ain't It? Wait a minute. There was Frog in a Blender. Remember Radiskull and Devil Doll? Do you guys remember that I was doing a Radiskull and Devil Doll comic book for Image? You guys remember that? That's how far back we're going. That was that was like that wasn't dial up. That was like the beginning of like fiber or whatever, right? When you had like internet connections, but they weren't. It wasn't like this fast stuff. That's right. Tell them Team 3D, Devons, get the table. But you know what's really funny about that? I don't want to talk too much about wrestling because people always leave when I talk about wrestling. Yo, what up, Johnny Fitz? Reporting for duty. The good gentleman, the greatest man alive. Oh yeah. Um, as you guys know, I'm a dyed in the wool Philadelphian. You see the drip? I'm representing our, the University of Wawa tonight, and hold on a second. I got some stuff going on. Wow, Paul Pace says the frog in the blender guy lives in my town. Never met him though. Yeah, that's what's up. Thank you, bro. That's right. 247. They're trying to say, yeah, I got a cop my Hoagie Fest shirt. Um, but as the Philadelphia's favorite son, I have to rep Philadelphia at all times. And as such, and also being born in the hotbed of professional wrestling, the East Coast cord, and you know Philadelphia is a hotbed of wrestling. I started watching Dark Side of Wrestling again. I don't watch all of those, but they had one of my favorite wrestler ever. I almost feel like I can die now. They had Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, who is such a linchpin of where modern professional wrestling is. You could talk about uh, uh, his extremely sharp booking mind, how he brought pro wrestling, kind of like his whole gimmick, into the MTV generation. How he started ECW, how he ran Jerry Lawler over with a van in Memphis, one on one with the great one. Thank y'all. I was very excited, and for you guys who are wrestling heads, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert is my favorite wrestler of all time. I like a lot of them. I'm a big Stone Cold fan. I thought Steve Austin was special a long time ago, and then he became the biggest wrestler on earth, and I was like, of course. But Eddie Gilbert is special, and what I love about Eddie Gilbert, also why I like Hobbits is he was a smaller guy. He didn't look intimidating, but he had a sharp mind, and he was a fantastic heel. And his promos were believable, and he threw fireballs at people, and he ran over Jerry Lawler in a van. All right, so people after all this time in my studio are now asking about my studio equipment. Are those IKEA desk legs? All right, somebody back here asked about. Okay, Joseph, what up, Joseph? Said someone asked the great one, not Wayne Gretzky, is JN, where he brought a sawhorse drawing table. I haven't had any luck. This is IKEA. This is an IKEA joint. So, and this is pretty old now. What up, Shogun? Um, Probably I'm like 8 years old or something like that. But you go to the IKEA showroom, and when I was trying to outfit my new studio space, like I have two desks. The one I'm sitting at is a task desk that raises and lowers. It's not electric. Boogie woogie woogie. It's got to crank that soldier boy. Yes, it is an IKEA. And what's funny, just even talking about that is, well, and this is my drafted table, and I just kind of move things around because I work so much digitally now. There's some people who kind of like, or I have, somebody will come visit and go, why do you still have your drawing table? Don't you work digitally now? And in my cartoonist heart, bing, 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 the whole thing at IKEA. Give me some credit. Um, in my cartoonist heart, I can never get rid of my drafting table because that is like one of the early grails of a young cartoonist. When you get a drawing table, and this isn't my first or even my fourth drawing table. I've had several drafting tables over the years. but you can't get rid of your drafting table. I don't know. You just can't, right? You can't. I just can't. Like I may at some point, like I'm not using it to sit at and draw right now. I just put this this monitor behind it. It's got some jellyfish going on for ambiance. But even if I kind of do something else with this space and I take that desk, I'll put it in the attic. I'm not getting rid of my drafting table. Hello, Mr. Coffee Drinker. Hello, D. Guys, are you not reading Rosebuds? Are you not representing with my man Super D, one of the new young guns of the comic book page, the comic strip page? What are y'all doing right now? What up, D? Bill O'Donnell's doing plugs in the chat. Yes, Chris, it's like when Mike broke out the lap board. Must have for cartoon. Yeah, where's my lap board? My lap board's not so romantic, but I have a lap board that's covered in stickers. You know what it is. Philly versus all he used. Nice, just started on the back. Pause. But yeah, so this was I started really putting stuff on here during COVID because I was doing a lot of Zoom sessions or like virtual school visits, and I would put I have like a camera that faces down, and I would use this to draw, and the kids are like, "Whoa!" Plus, I like stickers, so a lot of you guys know I'm a big sticker head. Represent Hyro, y'all. I got a bunch of stuff on here. Yeah, so there's a lot of Hawthorns on there too. That's right. Oh, you guys stopped me. I was talking about ECW. So, as a resident Philadelphian and also being a giant wrestling guy, when ECW was at its apex, well, actually before that, we every month we go down to the arena. That's right, the infamous ECW arena, and check out the shows. Now that was an experience. That's back when you know we're adults. Like we don't have to talk about the state of wrestling, but ECW was so visceral, um, and I'm never going to get into an argument with a Mark over if it's real or not. But these guys were hitting the shit out of each other, and that was a point where like they'd have bring your own weapon night, and people would just show up with like keyboards or crutches or ironing boards, and New Jack would hit whoever over that over their head and break it in half. Fake that. Um, but anyway, that's when the Dudley Boys were a faction. See, for all you WWE guys who never knew about the Dudleys before they came to WWF, the whole thing was supposed to be kind of like a based off the Hanson brothers from Slapshot, and there was the patriarch of the Dudley family, Big Dick Dudley. The Big Dick Dudley was this big Yeti-looking dude who didn't wrestle, but he always had crutches. And the gimmick goes, he sired all of these kids from all over all over the planet. So there was like 7 or 8 or 9 of them, and they all had stupid names. Chris, what up, Chris? Chris says I saw New Jack use a Nintendo. So that's it. Yo, peace, Adam Repunk Taco. Let's not get caught up in New Jack stories, right? New Jack was always insane, but so there was I'll give a nod on prize to anybody that could put all the Dudleys in the chat before I say it. If I remember, there was Bubba Ray Dudley, Devon Dudley, Little Spike Dudley, Sign Guy Dudley, Dances with Dudley, Dudley, and I think there might have been like 1 or 2 more. No, Dudley Do Right was not one of them. And they all wore tie dye and overalls. Dudley Moore would have been a funny Dudley. So, and then at some point, all those other guys fell away, and then it was just Devon and Bubba, and Spike was around, and they were, and Sign Guy was the the silence behind the violence. Then let's fast forward. Speaking of New Jack, let's fast forward to the WWE. Now these guys are in the WWE, and they're wearing New Jack's gear. And that's you can find some videos about that. All of a sudden, they're wearing like army camo and everything, but they still have the glasses gimmick. That's the only thing they left back for the Dudley Boy thing. And here we go. Bill O'Donnell says there's always the stories of Sabu and how much he was held together with super glue, staples, and other. Yeah, we were at Born to Be Wired, where I think that was Sandman versus Sabu, and he got cut up so bad. He he went in the back. I think that's what he went in the back and got a thing of duct tape, and he taped his arm back together and went back out there. That is not fake, ladies and gentlemen. But also, here's the bad part about this. A lot of those dudes aren't around anymore. There's a lot of dead ECW guys or ailing, and they were just taking a lot of unprotected headshots. This is kind of before the whole CTE thing. And then if it wasn't that, they were all like addicted to pain pills. You know what I mean? Those guys they wreck their bodies for you. So anyway, ECW. So and yeah, I just saw that Sabu wrestled his last match, and he shouldn't have been wrestling. But if you guys saw the wrestler, the what's the face's name? You know the guy. His name always falls out of my head. Well, Marissa Tomei was in it, and it's pretty spot on. Even though it was a made up story, it's pretty spot on, especially how those guys are kind of like cartoonists, right? You can't do anything else, right? And then you may have had your heyday, and now you're down here, right? And you're like working working the high school uh, gymatorium for maybe $20. And you know what else are you gonna do? There's one scene in the movie where Mickey Rourke is like he got a straight job and he's like at a deli at a supermarket. And I heard that they had just let that scene roll. I think they didn't have clearances or something, and they just kind of snuck back there. And Mickey Rourke is standing behind the deli counter with his hat on, and this old lady came up to him and was trying to order deli meat from him. So then he's kind of like he was there for what, a day, and then he just like jams his hand into the slicer, and he leaves. They can't. What else you gonna do? Mark, like Cap Kirk says, I don't want my pain taken away. I need my pain. Shout out, Mark. Good to see you, brother. So I think pro wrestlers and cartoonists have a lot in common. What else am I going to do? I've heard a lot of these guys talk about the adrenaline rush of walking out, and this is for like the big league chew guys. Walking out, just imagine you're at WrestleMania and you walk out onto the stage, and there's 25,000 people chanting your name. Like, what? How could you not get addicted to that? So, but yeah, wrestling. Um, so it's funny we started talking about this stuff. But some if any of you guys watched Dark Side of Wrestling, it's weird because they have these kind of like sit down interviews with people who are kind of close to these people, and like all of the Dark Side of Wrestling things are all kind of the same. This person was really famous or important, and then they got addicted to something, and then they died, and then people talk about the ride in between, and that's very true. And they're all super sad stories, or then there's a lot of stories of just these. If you, I don't know, I don't want to talk about pro wrestling all night. But if you look at even the physiology of a wrestler, like let's talk about the 70s and the 80s guys. These were like big Bubba, like beer drinking, tough guys who were wrestlers, right? Now, almost like uh, Survivor was on the other room, and the new the new Survivor player, because Survivor's been around so long, almost like comic books, are fans of Survivor. So these new kids are on the game going, oh, you know, Boston Rob in season 4, he used this tactic. Like they're students of the thing. They weren't like, hey, I don't know what else I'm going to do, or I'm going to be a wrestler, or I was, I got cut from the LA Rams and I met Killer Kowalski at a club and he was like, you should be a wrestler. Like those stories don't really exist the same way. So you're kind of seeing this, so if you, when we talk about wrestling and somebody's like, oh, they still do that, and I always wince. Or they go, oh, right, I remember wrestling like Iron Sheik and Hulk Hogan and like all of those dudes who were like really like giant roided up dudes. And the modern wrestlers don't look like them anymore. Like some guys who are like pretty big as far as stature for wrestlers. If you walk past these guys in the airport, you would have no idea who they are, But you stand those guys next to like Randy Orton, who's like 6'7" or something. And you're like, holy shit, that's a wrestler. Bill Dom says, who would be the toughest cartoonist comic artist of this era? AKA the Harley race of artists. Is that kind of like physically, like who would win a fight? Is that what you mean? I don't know. There's not a lot of. There's not a lot of. Is it? Didn't Bisley die? That's funny. I like that you put Biz up there. I was gonna say Chris Schweitzer. I was like he could fight. Like there's a lot of like pseudo tough dudes, but I think Chris Schweitzer knows how to punch somebody. Um, he's a sweetheart. I'm just saying. I would love to hear what the chat says about that. And even to what Bill's talking about, handsome Harley Race or King Harley Race was, as the people say, a legit tough guy. Like these are guys that they didn't like what you were saying. They would stretch you, like they would like hurt you for real until you figured out how this works. And also they say Haku or Ming from WCW was like the toughest guy in pro wrestling, and no one would mess with him because he would like legit kill you. Capula, okay, all right. And like I said, Chris is a sweetheart. I don't think, but there's some people who just carry themselves like respectfully. I'm gonna give you your space. You know what I mean? But there's also a lot of like pseudo tough dudes. All right, so I got to do one more thing. I got to talk more about hot stuff. All right, so the reason I love hot stuff, Eddie Gilbert, is that he was at the beginning of a lot of stuff, and um, he was also a big Southern territory guy. He was a Memphis guy. And we talk about the territories of wrestling before the WWE owned the world. Wrestling in the United States was broken into territories. You'd be Piper in Portland, right? So there was Florida, Portland, um, and everything in the East Coast was kind of like New York, and that was the WWF. Um, and all of these guys kind of had a handshake agreement to either share talent or figure out angles so everybody would get over. And that's what the NWA came from. The National Wrestling Alliance was made out of territories, right? So when Ric Flair was the champion of the NWA, he went to different territories. He went to Florida and feuded with Dusty Rhodes. It did, but he wouldn't lose. But he would make those guys look good, and then he go back to North Carolina. So like all of that stuff kind of ceased to exist when Vince McMahon took over from his dad and and he broke all the agreements. He broke all the gentleman agreements with all of those dudes. because um, his father said, "I would never take you guys out of business because I respect the territories." And then when Vince took over, he broke all of that and just started talent rating. So that's how all these guys showed up in the WWF. That's Hulk Hogan came from the AWA. You know what I mean? So anyway, all right, I talk too much about that stuff. I get excited. But there's so many little particles of this. And so anyway, so Eddie Gilbert was a Memphis guy. And if you know who's the king of Memphis, the king Jerry Lawler. Yes, that Jerry Lawler who you see, screaming about puppies on WWF. That's very true. Thank you, Bill. And Lawler was so he was so big in the South that there were people that grew up idolizing Jerry Lawler, and Eddie Gilbert grew up idolizing Jerry Lawler, and he wanted to be Jerry Lawler. And then when he turned heel and went to Memphis, he was feuding with Jerry Lawler, and it was the biggest thing in the world. So Gilbert started, putting these angles together, and people weren't doing modern angles like him, like the Tupelo concession brawl, where they fought all over the building, and people got mustard thrown on them. Was so big. One of the Japanese guys that was there went back to Japan and started hardcore wrestling. So all this stuff just starts peppering to where you have ECW and then garbage wrestling and all that. All right, I talked too much about it. Who don't you care for, Shogun? I'm sorry, you got me. You got me going. Are we dirt dishing? And we got a small audience tonight. It's okay. I'm sure there's something else going on in the world. Oh yeah. Well, when people talk about who is the greatest heel in wrestling history, it's Vince McMahon, without a doubt. The Mr. McMahon character is probably the greatest character, which is probably like a shade off from the truth. And that stuff is kind of penetrated pause the real world. Like when Trump was in angles in WWE like 15 years ago, where I think he was in a hair versus hair match with Donald Trump, and Vince got his head shaved, and that's that begat the era of do rag Vince, when somehow he wound up being the ECW world champion and was wearing a do rag and saying really wild shit out of his mouth. The guy's a maniac. But anyway, wrestling is life. Wrestling is life, and also Dungeons and Dragons is life. You can take all the aspects of both of these things and shoot it into real life. I think I've said this before. Like your wife comes home from work and you're like, "Yeah, what happened?" And she's like, "Oh, I got heat with Janine in finance. We're we're feuding, but I went to the break room and I cut a promo order, and you just totally understand. Hey, what happened in the office today? Oh, so and so was trying to go into business for themselves, or I had to put over Ricky in the mailroom. He needs a promotion. Same stuff. That's right. Tell him. So I was going to talk about, and JRD like lives rent free in my head, as I was doing one of these very cool riff things with you guys once. And then JRD showed up and said something like, "Oh, at least we're not talking about donuts," or something like that. Right? I say all the time, Michael. It's like, "Oh man, I made my saving throw. I caught the bus right before it left me. Yo, it's a crit. I rolled a nat 20. And also, I was talking to somebody and they didn't know about, how the kids talk about alignments or whatever. Like all that stuff comes from D&D. Like, oh, somebody's lawful good or chaotic evil or true neutral or something like that. That's all Dungeons and Dragons. Like, you know who your boss is. He might be chaotic evil or lawful This is good. Lawful. Wait, how's it go? Lawful evil, right? Like you are super evil, but you have a code. It all makes sense. Yo, you took it back to the essence to hit armor class 0. The young kids don't know anything about that, Mark Manley. You had to do straight up math to play D&D back in the day. So this is what I was going to talk about. So I saw this video and I was trying to find it. And one of the things I hate about the modern internet is that you see reels and shorts and stuff like that on the internet, but you can't find it again. And I know that you can save things, but I don't know where it is. But I saw this video and I think I saved this guy's where I followed this guy on Insta. This is British dude, this black British dude. And a lot of his content, he's sitting on the couch with his teenage son. And for all you guys who have families and kids, you can talk about that. What is it, the 2024 edition? It's already 25. Effing evil. I haven't really got into that yet, but I'm interested in reading the rule. So he's sitting on the couch with the son, and the son's like, "All right, so what?" He's like, so the dad is like, "Yes, before when we wanted to hear a new song, you had to wait for it to play on the radio, and then when you heard it, you had to run over and put a fresh tape into the boombox and press play and record at the same time." And the kid was like, "What? But what?" Like he was just flummoxed by it. And it wasn't like, I don't understand these devices you're talking about. It's more about like, well, how did you so wait, and he's like, you listened to the radio all night. Kind of off the record, but that said it. If you didn't make it, you gotta hope they play it again. Um, so then the kid was like, "S- all right, so then how did you know about a new thing?" And he was like, "Oh, well, you saw maybe they played a video." And he's like, "Oh, okay, so you watched the video?" I was like, "No, no, no, no. You had to watch TV, and there was a couple of video shows that played during the week or the weekend, and you did the same thing with your VCR, and then maybe the kid was just like, all right, I don't. So what? So you. Oh, this is what he said with the boombox. He was like, so you saved it. You saved the record, and he's like, no, no, I recorded it. I didn't save it. So, and all of this stuff, it's almost like people don't know what a mixtape really means because even like the last generation, a mixtape was a CD that you kind of put stuff on, and that's not even the same. Tell them, Mike, if you miss an episode of your favorite show, you would have to wait for the summer reruns, or if they got syndicated. Or how about this? When you think you may have gaslit yourself. Wait a minute, I swore I saw this thing, but I don't. Was it a fever dream? And I had to wait for the DJ to stop talking over the intro. Yep, it's so crazy. Um, but yeah, just like all that stuff seems so perplexing to kids, and I understand. This isn't even a like old guy yelling at clouds thing. I had this conversation with another buddy the other day, and I said, it's almost inconceivable how quickly technology advanced in the past 40 years. It's crazy. Shogun says, "Yo, the loss of the 26 episode season has destroyed television, particularly shows with ensemble cast." Yeah, and so I know that's not even what you're getting at, but even you talk about like streaming and how people don't, oh, you got to watch Scott Pilgrim, but the whole thing, I can't remember if they did that with Scott Pilgrim. The whole shit is there now. And you just like devour that. And then you're like, where's the next one? Like you watched a whole season of something in a weekend. That's not how this stuff is supposed to be digested. Well, I don't think. So, and I see what you said there, Bill. I'm going to get back to it. So, really, what I wanted to get at tonight is kind of what we're talking about is with this push to kind of like break the tractor beam hold over your attention with phones. You're seeing it's almost like a new hipster wave that people are trying to go back to physical again, physical objects. So I'm seeing all these videos about buying a CD player in 2025. And I know people who once the iPod showed up, they ripped all of their CDs. I heard you like CDs. They ripped all their CDs and threw them away. This was even before you like put them on a curb or donate. They threw them out. Because like, what do I need a CD for? It's on my iPod. And then they didn't talk about the battery dying and you can't replace the battery in an iPod. And your shit's gone. So now here we are again, back when people were like, yo, I went CD shopping. I was in Northampton, Mass a couple of weekends ago, and I stopped by Newberry Comics. Shout out to Newberry Comics in Northampton. I know that's big in Boston, Newberry, right? So you go into the store. Wasn't that even a joke in Guardians of the Galaxy? They came a zoo. And and you go into the store. It's a giant store. It's a beautiful store. You go in the store, a wall of Funko Pops, tchotchkes, something that I'm trying to stay away from. The Blockies. Have you seen the Blockies? They're like these little Transformer Gundams, like they're actually Transformer licensed. And you get these little, they're blind boxes, and you get a little kit. You make Cliff Jumper, and you can pose them. All that stuff. And then you go around the corner, they have a legit record store in there. They got the pit in the middle of the floor, vinyl on the back, CDs. And I was like, yo, I haven't been CD shop. Like something happened to me, like it triggered something. And I was like, I miss the record store. I really miss the record store. And I know I have a couple of buddies who are big audiophiles and they know where to go find a record. Like shout out to Princeton Record Exchange and those kind of spots. There are some record stores around, but the era of Tower Records is long gone. Even like going to Target and buying records. Like remember that? Not records, like CDs. You buy CDs and DVDs and VHS and all that. And then in the very back of the store were the comics. Like they were like in the back. Mark says, as an audiophile, CDs still sound better than streaming, even high res streaming. I mean, Bill says, shout out, come by Princeton Record Exchange, it's still kicking. Shout out. I never been in there, but my man, he lives in that place. And so anyway, so these new hipster things are talking about how, yo, this is the perfect time to get into collecting CDs again before everybody figures out that this stuff is going to start getting expensive. You better go to the thrift shop and just start clearing them out, because you can go to the thrift and they had nothing but like a whole wall of CDs, like $1.50. Just take them, just get them out of here. You better go cop them. But I've always liked physical media. Like I still have a shoebox with my old hip hop tapes in it. And sometimes I'll go to a flea market just trying to find a not like a boom box, but just like a little tape player. And I found a really good CD player, and the thing died, and I'm mad, and I gotta go find a new one. Shogun says, I saw somebody talking about the data difference. Yes, flat waka flacka flame. I saw somebody talking about the data difference between playing a Blu-ray and streaming. Streams usually use maybe 5 gigs, if I recall, where a Blu-ray uses 40 gig. Wow, they sold you a bill of goods. Everybody thought, oh man, I don't want to mess up this profile in my apartment. I got to get rid of this stuff, right? So I'm sure you got buddies, or you go over somebody's crib and they still got the big bookshelf full of CDs and stuff, and you're like, you still got CD? Tell me you haven't ever made that face at somebody. Shout out to Kari, his new sketchbook boombox. I told him, yo, I need to get that. Right? So it's always been like that. And what was the thing right before people swore off of DVDs was the 4K digital Blu-ray joint with the digital people. You could go to the thrift. There's just a basket of them just sitting there. Right? I still covet I don't have it out. Like I still have CDs, and I started putting them in these little kind of like see-through carry bags you can get off of Amazon, off of Bezos, I'm sorry, and just store them. Like I have a couple of CD books that I keep in the car, and I do enjoy a blind pull pause. I did a lot of driving the last couple of weeks, and I would just put the CD book on my seat and I just put it in. I don't know, I don't know what's gonna happen. You're not gonna get that from Pandora. I mean, I guess you could, but it's not the same, y'all. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's run a scam on that. Bill says my dad is a jazz saxophone player, and his basement is filled with vinyl CDs and reels of jazz. Yo, protect this man at all costs. That's what's up. Um, and also, we're talking about, and I've been feeling like this for the last couple of cycles. I feel like we're really close to being at the end of video game consoles. I don't know. I might be living in a cage by the end of this year. Who knows? But they're talking about the Switch 2, and then they're like, "Oh well, you buy this game. The game's like $80, and there might not even be the Switch. They have little cartridges, like these little joints. It might even have it might be a digital code. So there's already a bunch of people that are upset about like digitally owning things, and then when they take them away, you don't own it anymore. That's real sinister, and that's kind of where we're headed. So that's just another reason to kind of consider getting getting physical again. Um, but right, that's crazy. Bill says there's legit realness to it. The next Xbox console is a PC with an Xbox console graphic user interface. Yeah, they just did the thing on Kindle. Oh, and it's supposed to have Steam built in. Chris says you don't own your digital books on Kindle. Yeah, that's a thing. I thought all that stuff was supposed to be DRM, right? But like you bought a book, and then what? They can take it away. Well, I've been following this. Like everybody knows I'm a big gamer, but the last 2 or 3 generations of Xbox stuff, I just wasn't interested. Like, I love my Xbox 360. I had a lot of fun with 360. I love the OG Xbox. Shout out to my Halo 2 clan. Still get it. Well, we getting it in, but and then when the Xbox One came out and they kind of fumbled the whole Connect thing, and it's just like they didn't know. It just felt like they didn't know what they were doing. Yeah, Yeah, you do. I don't know, you guys. So I'm going to do a ones and twos in the chat real quick. And this has been like a real like low key episode, so I'm glad that we were just kind of chilling. I needed this today. All right, so here's our ones and twos. If you've never been here before, ones and twos is where you get to interact with me, the great one. Thank you guys, and put respond into the chat with whatever applies to you. If you right now have physical entertainment in your presence that you maybe collect, covet, or would never get rid of, put a one in the chat. If you are somebody who threw all your shit out and is now regretting it, put a two in the chat. Or even worse, your girl made you throw it out or something diabolical like that, put a two in the chat. Three, are you regretting your prior choices and now want to rebuild your collection? Put a three in the chat. That's what we got. Yo, E, what up, E? Good to see you. What's marathon? I didn't even hear about that one. I see a lot of ones all day, every day. Bros with a one. Bros, you give me hope, my friend. E, what up, E? Look at that. Chris. Wait, Chris, how you gonna do all of them? Yeah, Shogun. I remember I got a couple of Steam controllers when they were clearing that stuff out. I got that thing was like $50. I got it for like $8. They're like, yo, just buy these. And I was like, all right. Um, yeah, you know what? And I don't know if it's about physical space or clarity, like my man Mark Manley said. Like if you're really about that sound, if you're kind of like, I know a couple of cats who are now into vinyl, like they're kind of like vinyl nerds. And you have your listening station with some really like sexy headphones, and you put those on, you can tell the difference between um, vinyl or a old cassette or a CD. Like I've been thinking about, I don't have the space for it, but like I kind of I want my receiver back. I want pause. I want my receiver back, and I want my 6 CD changer back. I miss that stuff. And anybody who had a CD switcher in their car. I never had one of those, but I know one of my boys came through and he had the whole joint and he put it in the trunk. So jealous. Shogun says Marathon was one of Bungie's first games. How do I not know about that? And they're making a new Marathon that's okay. All right, let's check it out. No, they make you throw out your magic cards. Oh my god, yo, you didn't tap mana. Yeah, there's autophiles that take headphones as serious as sneakerheads. It's real. So that's also kind of bothering me because after Guardians of the Galaxy and this whole new hipster revival of Walkmanses, and people are starting. I've seen people wearing like the old school Walkman headphones, like the orange pads. They're the worst headphones of all time. Yeah, brother. Shogun said for a while they made CD changes that fit in the head unit. Pause. He says last car had a 6 disc changer. Great for audiobooks and a long drive. Current car only holds one. Yo, yo, let's get a sipper up, you guys. First sip of the night, maybe the last. Let's get. Where am I? I can't find my stuff. Hold on, you guys. Sipper for Eric's 6 CD changer. Yo, what up, Bill? Good to see you, my man. Bill, we're talking about physical media. We're talking about CDs, vinyl, cassettes. Shout out the mini discs. I'm not going into mini discs. We talk about mini discs. I I was in the mini disc for a minute. There's a whole community out there, especially on Facebook, that they're hardcore about the mini discs and the collective players. That was my bridge between MP3 players because I wasn't like Team Apple, and I knew there was better ways to kind of like play with this tech. And I got heavy into mini discs. I could fit like 6 albums on on a mini disc, and that got me through a lot of plane flights back then. Even had the digital readout. The stuff was so advanced. And I kind of feel bad that mini discs didn't really catch on, but what a great collectible. So anyway, Bill, how do you feel about that stuff? Yes, you knew you got summoned. You're supposed to be here. Michael says I have an equalizer speaker set for DJing and surround sound for my TV. Nice. You need your sounds. People don't understand. I need my set. Turn it up. Shogun says, hot take, audiophiles may be some of the most gullible people. Well, remember when you would go into Circuit City or Best Buy and they were trying to get you to buy like high end um, home entertainment systems? And I think, wasn't that even a 40-year-old version? Virgin, not version. Where if you wanted to check out a sound system or the fidelity of something, they put Top Gun in the player, and you're like, listen to that surround sound, 5.1. Um, but they swear they know what they're talking about. Yo, rest in peace, Circuit City. I still miss Circuit City. Pause. Yes. Bill says, oh, a coworker was surprised to have a CD player in my car. Man, I love my CD player. Yo, Shoka, we gotta talk. Do you still have a player for it? Oh, Bill, I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. The mini discs were lifesavers with the radio production line as a PSA play. Oh, I never even thought about that. Yeah, man. Oh, E says, I don't buy a lot of vinyl these days because it's so pricey. Facts. Even used costs more than I like. Did pick up the anniversary 3 Feet High and Rising. Yeah, I got that. I got it for Christmas. And a special edition Cowboy Bebop soundtrack. Oh. I also, because I'm a video game nerd, there are a lot of people that buy video game soundtracks on vinyl. And there's this place, I think they're called Disc Masters or Data Disc or something. And they do these gorgeous albums with, like, say, the complete soundtrack to Lunar Silver Story or like Streets of Rage. And like, I'm not into that. And I know some people that were really into that. And I'm just like, it's cool, but that's not my twist. But yeah, nice vinyl. Chris says some new releases of old albums are thick as hell. They feel like 78. Mark. Yeah, I know. Mark, you've always been a tech dude. I was speaking your language tonight. Oh, Bill brought up Laserdisc. Shout out to Laserdisc. Laserdiscs are gorgeous. These giant platters. Oh my goodness. Yo, anybody got a Laserdisc player or had one? I'd like to talk about that. Bill says, when I was in high school, a lit teacher of ours had us over to his house to show off his Laserdisc and surround sound. To demonstrate, he put in Raiders and went to the bar scene. Chris, did you get rid of your Laserdisc collection? What? Let me guess. I'm sure you had Terminator. I'm sure you had like Aliens and Ghostbusters. Man, man alive. Yeah, I never had that kind of setup, but I respect it. It's like we're brothers or something. How would I know these things? I love it. All right, Star Wars, of course. Bill says first Laserdisc my family played was a Peter Jackson movie, The Frighteners. Oh wow, was that the one with the weird puppets in the mountains? Peter Jackson was doing some weird ish back in the day. Shogun says, "Damn, wish I had been in a Laserdisc when I was up. Probably still in the digits." What up, Joe? Joseph? Joseph says, I knew a guy that gave up his comic book collection for his wife to be asking for a friend. It was sad seeing him bringing in his books to the local shop. His girl was hot. Hopefully, he's still happy with his choice. That's where the thick freeze frames. He wasn't happy with his choice. Yeah, the original Star Wars. Also have all the Golden Age of Oh, they talk about physical stuff. They edited the hell out of those Looney Tunes cartoons. Like, what is it? The rap? I forget the name of the short. It's the one where Bugs Bunny is racing a tortoise. He's like tucking his ears into the cap. So at the end of that, when I guess the tortoise wins and all the rabbits like beat the shit out of Bugs Bunny, and then they all like line up in a row and shoot themselves in the head. They cut that whole thing out. All these people showed up at the end when I started talking about Laserdisc. He says, friend of mine had a Laserdisc player, kind of annoying with the Abyss. Had to change. Oh, they were like, he had to change the disc, change the size 4 times. I didn't even know about that. I guess you couldn't put the whole joint on the giant ass plate. What up, Jeff? Jeff says, hold on, I'm having some issues here. Jeff says, Frighteners is a movie with Michael J. Fox and ghosts. Frighteners with Michael J. Fox playing card games with ghosts, aka reverse Ghostbusters. Yo, shout out to my favorite Michael J. Fox movie. I think this is his first movie, Midnight Madness. I love me a good scavenger hunt movie. Chair E Point. Mark says, I actually found an old Laserdisc of Army of Darkness when I sold my parents' house last month. I hope you took it with you. Christoph, yo, what up? Good to see you. Where are you guys hiding? The Laserdisc of Gondor has been placed to the sun, and Rohan will answer. Oh, Christoph says Hare and the Tortoise is a French fable from Jean de La Fontaine. I didn't know that. Thank you for that, Christoph. Wow, Laserdiscs were only in standard def too, 480p. Jeff says this is a little wincy. Mike Manley was reposting on Looney Tunes on Facebook. There were racist AF about Asians, so racist. I was laughing my ass off. Yeah, I mean, we go back a bit, and there was a lot of my old episodes of Coffee Break where we talked about candy and how like they had like racist penny candy. It's bad, man. Not a good look. But I guess where we're at is, I guess if you like something, keep it, right? I think it's hard to say, especially when you're with space constraints and things like that. But here's the thing, and I can't. We listen and don't judge here on one group. I'm sure there are a lot of y'all that got storage units. I'm not judging, but it's just kind of like, well, I don't know. I remember hearing, it's probably some of y'all, I hope it's not some of y'all, where people had, this one guy was secretly going to the comic book shop every week, and he would take his shit right to the storage unit and put it in his boxes. And his family never knew he had a comic book collection. Isn't that one of the weirdest things that get caught doing? Like wifey follows you to the store, like follows you one day, gets a detective, and you're like in the crates with the door open, and then you hear, "What are you doing?" And you turn around, and it's wifey, and she's like, "I would have been happier if you were cheating on me, but you're a nerd." Yeah, Jeff says, I think they should still keep these archived as history, to be honest. And I'm Asian. I agree. Even in like, I'm a big Tezuka fan. I love Astro Boy. I have an Astro Boy shelf. And in the Dark Horse collections, there's even a little thing that says, cultural things were different at the time that this was created. And we made the editorial decision to not edit these works. This is exactly how it was drawn or printed. Christoph says, got rid of our about 8 years, but yeah, storage units. That's real. I gotta finish it. Eric says, I'm old enough to have seen that Bugs cartoon on TV uncut. Pause. It was depressing to see the Looney Tunes joints get cut shorter and shorter every season back in the 80s. Yeah, some of that old stuff, you can't find the real ones. Where'd you learn to collect comics? I could learn it from you. We caught you huffing Spider-Man pages. It was pure Don Heck. Yeah, Chris says those secret guys die and then their stuff ends up on storage. Where, yo, I just saw somebody on, like, I belong to a lot of Facebook nerd groups, and I don't post in any of them. I'm straight lurking. I'm just like looking at the pictures or whatever. Shout out to G.I. Joe Classified, Xbox modders, all that stuff. But there was in one of those video game groups, somebody was like, yo, I just bought this storage unit. It's crazy. And it was nothing but video game, just straight jewels. Straight, straight like Sonic gems. Like what's the Chaos Emerald? That shit was spinning in the middle of the room. It was all like, and and I want to think like, what happened to that dude? Maybe he died. Maybe he like I was thinking like maybe he couldn't afford to like pay the rent or something. But then I'm thinking if you have all this gold in your storage unit, wouldn't you like try to sell some of it? I don't know. Yeah, telling Christoph, I ain't talking at this in these groups. I'm there though. Yo, shout out to the OG Xbox mod community. Joseph says, I missed out on the Laserdisc thing, raising three kidlets. Thank goodness I still got my comics. Uh, Shogun says, the originals of things should be kept as history. They reflect the time that shouldn't be cut away to make them palatable to modern audiences. Yo, facts. I believe you. I'm with you. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me for extended, uncut pause. Coffee break with JM. You know what? I do enjoy this. I hope you guys got something out of this. Um, and even with all the kind of cuts and things, we got to what I wanted to talk about, and this is what makes the JN and Jamar Nicholas Network so important. I got a real, guys. I'm going to share something with you. A cartoonist sent me a really nice message today. Let's see if I can find it. Hold on a second. I gotta find it. And it made me feel really good, especially off of the strength of, and I don't know, a lot of you guys may have missed this. At the part in the National Cartoonist Society, I ran and hosted a webinar called Show and Tell with Sergio. And if you know Sergio Aragon is the maestro of cartooning, you know who Sergio is. Mad Magazine, Gru the Wanderer, bloopers and practical jokes with Dick Clark. You know that's Sergio, the man with the mustache. He's a wonderful, beautiful human being. He calls me Yamar. What else do I need in my life? You missed chat to watch hockey playoffs. Come on, bro. Um, It went really well, and it was great because Sergio was like, and Sergio's getting up there, but he was really excited and he was invigorated by. We There was almost 130 people in the Zoom. It was crazy, and he was a little overwhelmed by the love because everybody loves Sergio. He was like, "There are people here I've been seeing in a long time. This is great. This is the power of cartooning in my life." Is the whole thing. And then so he had some cameras set up in the studio, which was great. He had an overhead, so he was drawing on the screen. Then at one point, he got up with an iPad and walked around his studio and showed us his wall of Eisner Awards, his Rubin Awards, his original art. He had a Tezuka drawing on his wall. Are you kidding? It was amazing. That's right. It was really great. And, it was what my whole purpose is especially being part of the NCS is like I want to, as I do a lot, I want to give these people their flowers. We have to celebrate Sergio Aragones. Like what? And people came out, but anyway, later somebody gave me a really nice message, and I'm going to read it to you. Oh wow, Bill. Rest in peace, Butch. I didn't know. How old was he? Ugh. All right, I want to end on a sad note, but see, now I feel bad, Bill. I don't want to read my thing now. You kind of turn the light off on me here. All right, I'm going to read it anyway. So he said this about me, and I thought this was really sweet. People don't realize that you are not just a great creator and author, but also a cultivator of our culture. I really appreciate all that you do. Wow. I was like, wow, that was really strong, and I appreciate that. Thank you. That wasn't on my bingo card for today, but it was really nice to hear. And I'm out here doing this stuff, you guys. I'm on your video scope every week. And I don't just kind of do this because I love looking at myself. Like there's a bigger purpose in mind. So it was really nice to hear that. And I'm glad that you guys love coffee break as well. Something in my eye. So, all right, you guys, I'm not going to do my whole countdown by Leon thing today, but I will say that I will be at, oh, thank you, Chris. Free Comic Book Day is a Saturday. I will be in lovely Newark, Delaware, uh, with Adriana Mello and Bill O'Donnell and the marathon man of Free Comic Book Day at Captain Blue Hen Comics, Neil Vokes, and also a lot of local superstar talent. Free Comic Book Day is an event at Captain Blue Hen Comics. So wherever you are, shout out your local comic book store. Go check them out. Go on Saturday, and please just don't show up and just take free shit and leave. This is an impetus for you to get into the store and generate some money. Get the dollars circulating, y'all. Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Chris. Bill says, also this week's P2P was great with Cully. Thank you. Yeah, Cully's a great dude, and I've been trying to talk to him for a long time, so I'm glad that worked out. And I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it as well. Let the dollar circulate. Yeah, get some trades. Buy Leon Extraordinary. So, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm almost out of coffee. You know what to say. Good night, John boy. Let's get our goodbyes in before I shut the door. And maybe I have some, get rid of this acid reflux. Oh, shout out to Saito-san. You know Gogo 13, master of snipe. If you've never read a Gogo 13 manga, yo, that stuff is intense. All right, let's do it. Yeah, get it in. You know Gogo 13. Oh my goodness, so good. All right, let's go. You're watching Coffee Break with JN with your boy JN. That's me. Oh shit, I gotta sneeze. Guys, we went extended. We hit the extendo friendo. And I was hanging out with my boys. You know my boys, the caffeines. You know how you are, caffeines, friends and regulars, not decaf, of Coffee Break with JN. And I can't do this all by myself. I need you to make group happen. Thank you guys so much. Um, that's a whole other book. So I go by many names. Captain Scholastic. I also wanted to share this. If you're friends with me on Facebook, I changed my John King of old media formats. Yes. Then I changed my profile picture. You know, your profile picture is the big, like, landscape image uh, that's next to your like little picture. And I did it of when I was at in New York at the Scholastic headquarters for the 20th anniversary party. Oh no, I never got in a Gundam. All right, uh, and I'm standing on the wall with all of our characters on it, with the superstars of Scholastic, and it was fantastic. And it was what a great night. And I kind of put that there to just remind myself that, on top of all the wild things going on in the world, that there's a lot of good stuff. Because I say this, I don't know where Duke is, Shogun, but it seems like everything's going to shit, and it kind of is. But there's still good in the world, and you can still do good things. You can still change lives. So don't quit. Anyway, so again, Captain Scholastic, Johnny Five, Johnny Five. How do you feel? I feel alive. And also the captain of this ship, Jean-Luc Picard. There are 4 Johns. Yeah, you love it. What happened here tonight? You got to hang out with JN and the caffeines, and we talked about old people shit and had a great time. But now that I'm out of coffee, somebody wake up Hicks. See you in 2 weeks.